went to school. You know, they did not put the educational part of it. I wish they did that. I'm sure next time they will, to show that if she was educated, if she went to school, she would have been independent, and she would not have been dependent on these men that abused her, and also her parents would not have had to take money and become dependent on the man too.
The play didn't only advocate for the rights of girls and women, but also underlined the talent embedded in the country's youths. Rahibite, Grts News.
Well, aid workers in Sudan and Central African Republic highlight the plight of civilians caught up in fighting between the different protagonists as negotiators in Banjul look for solutions to the raging conflict. And a second blast in as many days shakes confidence in Russia's ability to ensure security during the fast approaching Winter Olympics. These stories and others right after the break.
nañ leen ko macc neex na waaye xam nañ koo maccee ko dàq dama wax ne li mu saf billaahi ka ko tax xam ci ku rek moo ko xam tey jëli ba oote na ci réewi Gambia ànd ak kan kumaare ban fas yéene ubbi nag album bu ees album boo xam ne naka la tudda ñu ne Aliou Tujee lum tekki bàyyi leen ma rek lu ma def baax na ak ban ñu di ko wax wóoli saboo lum tekki ñetti façon ngi wàllu yu moo am ci àdduna bi moom la jëli ba nag fas yéene ubbi Aliou Tujee ak wóoli saboo kañ la koy lonc ba si samedi la di ñeneenti fan ci weeru janvier fan la koo loncee ca Sahel Fitness Center ca boori Coco Ocean Hotel ma ne kañ lay tàmbali juróom-ñeneenti waxtu waaye ticket bi yomb ba dee ñetti téeméer di $300 rek la jële baa nee na bés bi nag dafa am ñu ma invite su may mbokki artiste nag laa ci bés bi kan la Viviane Sidit ma ca Sénégal di woy mu neex mu tofal ci kan Balla Gaye 2 mi bëri te safoo ñëpp safoo ko ñoom la oo ci bés bi réewi Gambie jóg leen jëli baat ko yaate ànd ak kumaare ban cey lii neex ba dee ci 2014 bi.
Welcome back. Up to 100,000 people uprooted by clashes in the Central African Republic are seeking refuge at the airport in the capital, Bangui. Aid workers are meanwhile voicing concern and appealing for assistance, although conditions there are far from suitable. The internally displaced have opted to stay under the protection of French forces. We have more in this report.
The refugee camp at Bangui Airport grows bigger by the hour. It's twice as large as it was a week ago. Nearly 100,000 people have sought refuge here under the protection of the French army. Sanitation is a disaster. Humanitarian aid workers are simply overwhelmed.
There are no toilets, there is not enough water, no food distribution, no tents are handed out. Everything needs to be done, especially concerning hygiene, which needs to be addressed immediately. It's catastrophic. 100,000 people in such a small space. It is urgent that something be done.
They fled the ebb and flow of killings in their neighborhoods. Whole families crowd under the tarpaulins. Despite the terrible conditions, these people plan on staying put, too frightened to leave the camp.
We are in a catastrophic situation. As we speak, humanitarian workers are making lists. These lists exist, but we have not seen anything.
The volunteer doctors receive up to 20 wounded every day, victims of the fighting between Christian inhabitants and Muslim militias in the Central African capital. Aid workers say they need a lot of everything right away. Nearly half the city's population has fled to one of the 55 camps for the displaced. Almost 400,000 people, men, women, and children.
In South Sudan, about 20,000 members of an ethnic militia have been marching towards the town of Bor. But today, government officials have told CNN that they have convinced leaders of the so-called White Army to retreat. There has been weeks of conflict between government troops and forces loyal to former Vice President Riek Machar. And as our Demon reports, there is a growing humanitarian crisis as terrified civilians flee the violence.
Tents. This, one of the UN compounds in Juba, transformed into a teeming town for refugees. Children have just started to receive polio and measles immunizations. Concerns are rising about the spread of other diseases, and aid agencies that sent out their non-essential staff are struggling to cope with the overwhelming needs. This woman, now a widow, with 3 children. He was walking when it all started. He tried to run away, but he was caught and killed, she tells us. She never recovered her husband's body. She's still in shock, left to fend for herself, relying on the kindness of others. Many more wait under the punishing sun for supplies. Being handed out here are non-food items, plus essential nutrient-packed products. But as dire as these refugees' situation is, there are others who are potentially even more desperate.
There are others who are seeking refuge in the bush and in other locations, whom we are also trying to reach.
The world's youngest nation, just 2 years old, where after achieving independence, few imagined it would so quickly end up like this.
People are understandably very emotional and traumatized by everything that they have been through, so the camp managers have asked us not to conduct any of our interviews amongst the crowds, not even in people's tents or the markets, out of concerns that those tensions could be inflamed.
Just this base alone, now home to some 20,000 refugees. Many live within walking distance, and yet are too afraid to go back home, even though the capital has been relatively stable for over a week now. But fear reigns. James Gajak is the de facto community leader here.
When we were speaking, you said that your brother went to get water, and then you never saw him again. What happened?
My brother went back to the house to collect water. I was given a call with his phone, and that correspond they tell me that your brother is dead.
We go to see his sister-in-law. She's pregnant and due this month, but James stays behind. He says it's too painful for her and the children to see him. He reminds them of the husband and father they no longer have. Arwa Damon, CNN, Juba.
Russian authorities are on high alert after another bomb blast hit the southern city of Volgograd. An explosion hit a passenger bus, killing at least 14 people. It is the second bombing in as many days. Now on Sunday, a suicide attack at the city's main train station killed 17 people. Russia believes the 2 attacks could be linked to terrorist groups, although no one has claimed responsibility right now. At the moment, fingers are being pointed at separatist groups from the North Caucasus region. The 2 blasts are raising fresh security concerns less than 6 weeks before Russia hosts the Winter Olympic Games. CNN's Diana Magnay has more in this report.
Attacks in the southern Russian city of Volgograd in less than 24 hours. This morning's attack on a crowded trolley bus in morning rush hour. More than a dozen killed. Authorities say the blast the work of a suicide bomber, possibly detonating his device towards the back end of the bus, where the damage seems worse. Many on board were students. This is exam time in Russia. Among the injured, a baby in serious condition. This follows another attack at noon on Sunday in Volgograd's main railway station. The moment of the explosion caught on CCTV. 17 people were killed in that blast, authorities saying that was also the work of a suicide bomber. These attacks come less than 6 weeks before the start of the Winter Games in Sochi, which is around 400 miles southwest of Volgograd. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has vowed the highest possible security around the Games themselves and the town of Sochi, but it is clearly hard to police the whole of southern Russia to the same level. Russia is fighting an Islamist insurgency in the North Caucasus, not far from Sochi. In July, Russia's most wanted man, Doku Umarov,